and gentlemen, welcome to TGW Turnbuckle Talk. Here are your hosts, EvilPenguinGaming and OddSmith311.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 1 of TGW Turnbuckle Talk. I am EvilPenguinGaming.
And I am your friendly neighborhood drummer, OddSmith311.
So this week we're going to talk about what brought us in to wrestling to begin with.
Yeah, we figured this would be a good place to start. Just kind of tell everybody about our personal experiences with wrestling and why we are so much into it, and where we started.
Our introductions to the product.
Yeah, because we both got into it pretty young.
Yeah. I was 6 years old.
I would have been
90.
9.
You would have been not SummerSlam 90 or Survivor Series 90. You would have been 8.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you hadn't you had.
Well, no, 90. My birthday is 81, right?
Yeah, you would have been turning.
Oh yeah, that's okay.
So
delete that out, producer. Glenn, get on top of that shit.
It's all Glenn's fault.
Okay.
So before we get into the topic, we are going to have just a little bit of promotion, so we will be right back.
Join me, OddSmith311, and the rest of the BTV crew every Thursday night, starting around 9 o'clock, for Insomniac Hours. I'll be playing some of my favorite games, from Super Nintendo to Wii, PC, to Xbox One. We'll be all over the place. It's what we like to do. We stay up late, we play games. You can follow us at Twitter, Bananarama_TV, for updates, and interact with us during the show. Be there or be square.
Don't be square.
Join us every Friday evening as Felix and Loom.
And whoever else I can convince to come play games with me.
Usually, hopefully me, OddSmith311.
Oh, someone will be there with me.
We'll be doing multiplayer gaming this season. Something we're going to try.
Yes, every Friday night. We're going to be playing various games with our friends. And it probably will vary greatly depending on what games everyone has and what we want to play. So, it should be an interesting potluck of gaming.
So yeah, stop on by and let's all game together and do what we do best.
And if you don't want to play and you just want to lurk in the chat room, well, that's fine too.
You can find us on Discord as well.
Yep, so the main place for that is twitch.tv/Bananarama. Thanks for listening.
Join me, EvilPenguinGaming, every Wednesday this season at 1 p.m. for Retro First Timer. I'll be playing old games that I've never played before, like Zelda, Star Fox, Mega Man. You never know what's going to pop up. That's every Wednesday at 1 p.m. for Retro First Timer with EvilPenguinGaming.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. And we want to take a second here to thank our Patreon supporters. We appreciate you very much. You help us do what we do. All the donations, all that money stacks up, and it helps us afford some really good things for the channel and the station that we normally couldn't.
And all that money goes right back into the channel. We appreciate everything everybody's done for us, and we just want to continue to make the best entertainment we can and do what we enjoy doing, playing video games, interacting with everybody, and trying to make as much original content as we can. So stop on by. We have all kinds of perks that you can be part of.
We got perks. We're gonna give you shout outs. We'll put your names on our videos. It's a way to help out and support if you're not sure how and you like what we do. It's patreon.com/Bananarama TV.
Once again, we'd like to thank everybody who's supported us and everybody who's donated and continues to help us grow.
Thank you.
And we're back!
I hope you enjoyed those lovely messages, courtesy of BTV.
So, I'm going to go first. My introduction to wrestling that the earliest that I remember watching before the introduction of the WWE Network or other ways of finding stuff to watch via the internet was WrestleMania 4 in 1988, which was the tournament to decide a new WWF champion after the title had been vacated due to the controversy between Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, and Ted DiBiase, with the twin referees. Still one of the greatest angles.
Top three, if not
time.
the best. Yeah,
absolutely love that angle. But yeah, it was WrestleMania 4 in 1988, and after that, we would, as a family, I'm 6 years old at this point. As a family, we were always getting every pay-per-view after that. And at that point, it was only the big four. So you had the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. Mm-hmm. So after WrestleMania 4, you had SummerSlam 88, which was the very first SummerSlam, which was really the big introduction of the Mega Powers. Mm-hmm. Against, the Mega Powers being Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, against the Mega Bucks of Ted DiBiase and Andre the Giant. And of course, this is when Randy Savage had won the WWF Championship at WrestleMania 4 in the final match against Ted DiBiase. Mm-hmm. So, I'm just going to say it, me being a 6-year-old kid, when Liz threw that skirt off.
Oh, the teeny weeny.
Oh,
well, it wasn't, but it was supposed to be a tiny polka dot bikini or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, it was just that one-piece red bathing suit.
I'll tell you, it was still.
Oh yeah,
I was okay with that.
The thought was there, but yeah, and after that, so I fell in love with SummerSlam. WrestleMania 4 is what made me fall in love with tournaments. And then Survivor Series of 88 is when I was first introduced to elimination matches. You got 5 guys on either side of the ring.
Teams of 5 strive to survive.
That's right. And at this point, kayfabe was real. Mm-hmm. So you had, I don't remember the exact teams from that show, but say Hogan's team against Andre's team, and me as now a 7-year-old kid, I was invested.
Oh yeah.
I believed every single bit of this. These guys hated each other.
That's a hell of an angle to really get into wrestling on.
With the Hogan Andre thing? Oh, absolutely. It was such a great time. And then, you had the after that, the Royal Rumble in 89, mm-hmm. Which was won by Big John Studd. So my first 4 pay-per-views that I ever saw introduced me to different elements of the business that I'm still absolutely in love with to this day. Mm-hmm. Because the Royal Rumbles could be my favorite match of every year, no matter who wins it, no matter how it goes down. I just love that aspect.
Well, it's such a fun concept.
Right. It's such a great match. It was Patterson that came up with that, wasn't it?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
They did it on TV first.
Yeah.
To try it out.
88 was on TV. That one was won by Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Mm-hmm. After eliminating the one-man gang. I know way too... Well, I did watch every Royal Rumble and take notes on all of them.
And what was it with the very, very first one? Wasn't there... What was different? There was something different about the rules, wasn't there?
It was only 20 guys.
20, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was a time when they came out or something. Or did they come out?
It was quote 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes kayfabe time.
Right.
Probably more like 45 seconds.
But yeah, so yeah, all these different elements of the business I'm being introduced to. My fandom for Hogan is growing exponentially every time I see him on TV. And by this point, we had my aunt and uncle and my cousins coming over every pay-per-view because they were big fans. So, like, take the Royal Rumble. My cousins and I were all, okay, who's number one? Writing it down. Who's number two? Writing it down. You know, this is 89, 90, well before home computers. At least decent ones that poor folk could afford.
Yeah, in 1990, there pretty much was no system for like having a personal home computer with the internet set up, and like it today. I mean that
right.
You might have had a Mac, one of the early Apples or something, which are not the same as the ones today.
I do remember having a computer when I was before I was like 13, before I was like 12, when I was probably like 10 or 11, that actually had a version of Tetris on it. I think it had the original Prince of Persia also.
Did it have a Oregon Trail?
It did not have Oregon Trail. You have to play that for BTV.
I'm going to. I will die of dysentery.
Many times over. But back to what we were talking about. Yeah, it was the same with Survivor Series. You know, who got eliminated when and by who. Mm-hmm. We were all writing everything down. And it was a bonding experience for me. It was how I spent time with my family. You know, my parents, my brother, sister, my cousins, my aunt and uncle. It was a big bonding experience. You know, everybody had a big dinner.
Just like any other major sporting event, when
right, it's like the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you have a party, you had dinner, you might play some type of games, drinking games or something. Or if it's more of a family-oriented thing, when you're younger, like you said, keep track of the results, try to guess who's going to win. You know,
I remember the worst part. Every pay-per-view was the intermission.
Yeah.
Because nobody wanted to get up while the actual show was on. So as soon as that 5 minute, it was only 5 minutes, as soon as that intermission came, if you weren't on your feet before that clock started, you were getting in the bathroom last.
Yeah. Which is funny because I kind of, it's easy to forget about the fact they used to do that. Have the intermissions.
Right. Because, you know,
he had already be creeping to the door by then.
Right, yeah, nobody went. And the bad part about my house is that we were all in the living room downstairs, and the only bathroom was upstairs.
Oh, man.
So everybody had to rush up the stairs, elbowing each other. Get out of my way! I gotta pee!
Knocking people down. Get out of the way, Grandma!
Oh, it was so much fun. But yeah, I mean, that's really how I was brought into the business, because my mom was a big fan. My brother was a big fan. My sister, not so much, but my cousins were. My dad would watch it with us because it was a bonding experience. Mm-hmm. It was family time. But yeah, that's really my story to begin with. And then, you know, I would always... There weren't many pay-per-views... until... What was the first WrestleMania that I didn't record? WrestleMania 9 was the first WrestleMania that I missed on pay-per-view.
Which one was that one?
That was the Vegas one.
Oh, with Jim Ross made his debut with togas and stuff?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But then I did have King of the Ring that same year, which, another tournament. And that's what really solidified my love for tournaments, as is evident in season 1 of TGW.
Yeah, especially the lead up to SummerSlam.
The lead up to our SummerSlam was phenomenal.
4 week
in my tournament.
Or was it 8 weeks?
It was 8 weeks. Yeah,
8-week tournament. It was cool. If you get a chance, go back and check that out in the archives. It's good stuff.
But yeah, the King of the Ring that Bret Hart won, I absolutely loved it. You know, and you look at the guys that were in that tournament. You know, you had Lex Luger, you had Bam Bam Bigelow, Tatanka, Razor Ramon was in it. I can't remember anybody else. Well,
that's not the one that Austin won, though.
It's the one that Bret won.
Okay.
Austin won in
96, right?
95 or 96.
I think it's 96. I just remember that from a podcast, from the title of podcast.
I don't remember who won 95 then.
Was it? It wasn't Owen, was it?
No, Owen 194.
Was it the King? Didn't he win?
No. We'll have to look that up.
Yeah,
later.
it doesn't matter, but yeah.
But yeah, that's what solidified my love for tournaments. And at that point, that was Hogan's last match in the WWF at that point.
Oh, with the reporter, with
Yeah.
Yokozuna, or the photographer, rather.
Yeah. Who played that photographer? I don't know.
Harvey Wimpleman, I think.
Oh, yep, you're right. And so that was... I'm a huge Hogan fan at this point. So as soon as he left, and I found out he was going to WCW, that's when I started watching WCW. Because I hadn't really watched it up to that point. That's why, like, when you and I talk about early Vader, Sting, Flair, Steamboat, all that kind of stuff, I haven't really watched it. I should go back and watch it. I plan to go back and watch it.
There's a lot of good stuff, but there's also a lot of bad stuff. I forget about that too, that you didn't watch a lot of that early WCW. Well, not early. I guess it was early WCW. Before that, it was NWA, Crockett, and all that.
But yeah, that's when I started watching WCW. That was before Nitro even started. That's when the only real big weekly show they had was Saturday night.
Yeah.
And that, man, I'll tell you, I still love the set for that show.
I used to watch it every weekend. I used to look forward to it. It was cool.
It was a great show.
It was different than WWE. And maybe as an adult, you can look back and say some of those differences weren't necessarily good production-wise, but just as a kid watching, it was a different wrestlers, different setting, different announcer, everything.
It was, what I loved about it, in the studio was the entrance. With the doors, with the steam, I love that. That was so cool. That's why I liked Edge's entrance later into his career when he had this coming through the steam.
Yeah,
I use that entrance on every single game. To this day, I've been using it for years. I love that entrance.
It's effective. It looks really cool.
Right. But that's my take on how I fell in love with wrestling.
Now, was there ever a point, did you have a break point? Have you been watching it consistently, or did you drop off for a while?
The only breaks that I had were involuntary.
Gotcha.
Because, points where I lost cable, I was going through stuff.
Life, adulting.
Life happens. But other than that, I've been watching religiously for 30 years now.
Wow, yeah, shit. It's a long time, man.
Because, we're recording, today is, let's see, August 12th? Yes. August 12th, 2018 is the record date. And WrestleMania was back in April of 88. So
yeah.
WrestleMania 4. So, yeah, over 30 years, I've been watching as much as I can. My big, and that was a problem that I had, was like the late 90s. I wasn't able to watch a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that was at the peak of the Monday Night War. So that's something that I want to go back and revisit. Watch, say, the beginning of that 83 weeks.
Yeah.
Watch the episodes contrasting to each other. And watch all the pay-per-views. Watch Raw, watch Nitro, watch each WCW pay-per-view and WWF pay-per-view chronologically. Because it'd be like just going through that whole time period again. Just reliving it. Only I'm living it for the first time because I missed it all.
When you say you missed it, what's the last thing you got, angle-wise, you got to see?
I got to see episodes like here and there.
But you just weren't getting to keep up with it, like...
Right.
Gotcha.
And another bad time was 08-09. I missed a lot. Like, a lot of the legacy storyline I missed.
Yeah.
Because, I never once watched Manu in the ring. It was part of Legacy. Part of the NOIE family.
Yeah.
Never saw him on Raw. I didn't have cable at that point. So that's another era that I wouldn't mind going back and revisiting, is all of 2008 and 2009.
When did Orton start? It was
2002.
Okay, it was a little bit before that then.
02, 03. It might have been 03. So yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Because he and Cena and Lesnar and Shelton.
They all come up from OVW, didn't they?
All around the same time.
Mark Henry, I think, was another one.
Oh, sad that he's retired.
It is. I'm glad he had the career he did, man, because for someone who came in the business the way he was one just like Brock Lesnar, just like Kurt Angle, he was brought in because of his achievement was Olympic deadlifting. Was it?
I know it was some kind of lifting.
That's why they call him the strongest man in the world. I don't know if he still has the record, but he had the record at one time.
Oh, I'm sure he doesn't by now.
But if you listen to a lot of his career, I mean, it sounds like he kind of came in with once he kind of got over the I'm a real athlete kind of thing and started learning and really paying attention, he got it. Right. See, this is really interesting. We've talked about these stories before, but now kind of hearing everything, there's there's a lot of different contrast in our wrestling past, I guess you could say. Like, first of all, you started watching it like
2.5 years before you.
Yeah, and in a golden era. Not to say that I loved a lot of that, like 90s stuff too, but you came in with Andre and that. I had never. Until I got invited by a friend of mine to come over and watch SummerSlam 90. Before that, if I had ever seen wrestling, I didn't pay no attention to it. Not that I didn't like it, I just didn't know about it. I didn't know anything about it. He brought me over to watch it, and that was the opening match was the Hart Foundation and Demolition.
Oh, God.
And the Road Warriors running at the end.
Oh, my God. What a match that was.
I think that one had the culmination of the Hulk Hogan earthquake angle.
Ooh. Yeah, that was...
It was a good Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude and Kane. Remember, I didn't know who any of these people were. Like, I'm just like, wow. Like, especially, like, you got Demolition come out in crazy face paint, and Road Warriors are running out all crazy looking, and I'm like, they're just beating the crap out of each other. I was like, this is amazing.
It's a hell of a show to start on. It really, really is.
You know what's funny? I won't go on a big tangent, but I just realized that was the same person's house where I played Nintendo for the first time, too. No, I never thought about that before.
Interesting.
My friend lived over by it. But yeah, so we got it and I was hooked. But the thing is back in 90, with WWE, there was a lot of shows on and syndication and that, but if you didn't know, because I was, what do we say, 8? So, I mean, it wasn't like I was savvy with the TV, but they started finding prime time. I think it was prime time still, right? Mm-hmm. Which is another great thing. You see Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, you're like, these guys are fucking great. You know what I mean? Like
back over there at the desk.
Yeah.
Yep.
The way they used to mess with each other, and
before they changed it to the actual staging area.
Yeah.
With the ropes as the backdrop, and
it
was Bobby and Vince. That's where Bobby first brought out Flair.
Mm-hmm. Because he started introducing the belt. Mm-hmm. That's a very interesting story in of itself. How Flair left, but. Which I didn't learn about that to way, way, way later. But
oh yeah.
So we fast forward in Survivor Series 1990, and I'm like, my dad saw that my brothers and I were getting into it. I don't know if my dad or mom really watched it. Now I think about it, I still don't really. I don't think they ever were huge fans, but they knew what it was. I mean, even then, it was hard not to know who Hulk Hogan was. I mean, he was such a ubiquitous character throughout the world.
Household name.
Yeah. I mean, you have to know anybody. You can ask anybody now. Don't even know wrestling. You know Hulk Hogan? Oh yeah. He was in that one movie, or he was that guy that was in that Gawker cake. That's a whole other thing, though.
Yeah. Well, and like today, it's like, oh, do you know who The Rock is? Do you know who John Cena is?
Yeah. But Hogan was like, I can arguably be one of the first ones that. I mean, Macho Man was another big household name. There were a lot of larger than life characters. Speaking of which, Survivor Series 90.
Oh yeah.
My dad decides he's going to get this pay-per-view for us, which is really cool. And it was the same thing for us. Like my brothers and I, my younger brother wasn't so much, but my brother Jeff and I still to this day love wrestling and watch it and talk about it. And my mom and dad were there. My grandpa would come over. Of course, he would spend the whole time telling us how fake it was. and we would spend the whole time arguing with him.
Use that word.
Well, that's what he was. That shit's fake. They're not even hitting. Shut up, Grandpa. You don't know what you're talking about. So I don't remember all the matches. I believe that had the Visionaries, and that was the one where they had the end. They come back at the end.
Ultimate Match of Survival. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one was that Ultimate Match of Survival. If it's the right one, because I know they did that twice. I think they did it twice. Hogan, Warrior, and Tito Santana.
Yes.
Against DiBiase and the entire team of the Visionaries.
Because that was there in the Jake Roberts thing with him getting blinded. I remember getting to, that was one of the angles I came in. Was getting to see that. The what's the word I'm looking for? The finale, I guess. Of that angle was at my favorite WrestleMania. That was WrestleMania 7. Yeah.
The blindfold match between Jake Snake and Martel.
Which they did great. I mean, you can see why they're considered two of the best of all time. They were able to take something that on paper was probably like, what the hell are we supposed to do here? And I guess Jake was the one that really choreographed a lot of that match too, which speaks volumes. So that whole thing was going,
Yeah.
But the thing I remember the most, even to this day, is there's a match and people were coming out, and then they announced this character, The Undertaker, who I had never heard of. No one around me never heard of.
Now, preface this with who are the captains?
Dusty Rhodes and DiBiase.
Yep. This
is the DiBiase angle with Dusty, where I think Sapphire left Dusty for DiBiase and all that. They bring this guy, The Undertaker, out. Mark Calloway. I didn't know his name, Mark Calloway. And Brother Love's with him, which fucking hated Brother Love in a good way.
Everybody hated Brother Love.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think you're supposed to like Brother Love.
Not today, though.
I love you.
Well, you know.
You know. But he, this dude comes on. This dude looks scary. I mean, as a little kid, I'm looking at, he's like 6'6", 6'7", dark clothing, tall, stiff as a board, dark circles under his eye. He gets in the ring and pulls his stuff off. He looks like he's fucking like a corpse.
Pale white skin.
Yeah. And he just, every time, he didn't get a lot in the ring a lot. But when he did get in the ring, I mean, he was unstoppable. I think he eliminated Coco Beware pretty quick.
Yeah, 'cause he got disqualified from that match.
Him and Dusty it was a double count out. They started fighting, and they went to the back.
No. Taker got disqualified for choking out.
Well, then Dusty got counted out then.
Yeah. Dusty got counted out.
And then the rest of the pay-per-view, I mean, it was a good pay-per-view, but that was just really, that ended up being the more significant thing that happened. I didn't know at the time, because at the time it was just a new character, But what was cool about him is compared to the other wrestlers, he didn't, quote unquote, sell. He would pop back up. It's like nothing could hurt him,
Right.
And I gravitated more to the Undertaker. So I'm going to tell you something. This is one of the things that contrasts completely with your story. I hated Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, you told me that.
Hated Hulk Hogan.
You told me that.
Every time he got on the TV, every time he got in the ring, I'm like, get this. Well, I was a kid, so I don't know exactly what I was thinking. Because he always won.
He's such a jerk.
Yeah. Well, then he screwed over. There's that one Royal Rumble where, because I love Sid Vicious. God, I was such a huge.
That was the '92 Rumble.
And then he helped him get eliminated. I was like, oh my God, it's not fair. Oh, I was so angry, man. Like, so yeah, my whole thing with it's not like I cheered him getting hurt necessarily. I just didn't care for him. I didn't care if I didn't get excited when he was in the ring. The Ultimate Warrior, loved Ultimate Warrior. As far as that kind of, and I would say Macho Man was more my Hogan, and I loved the Macho Man.
Oh yeah,
he was just such a colorful character, and he was another one. I mean, he didn't hulk up or nothing, but he was you didn't see him lose very often.
Colorful, quite literally. Always wearing, and the robes.
Crazy robes, crazy jackets, crazy hats. I mean,
different colored tights every single night, and a robe to go with them.
Yep.
Robe, knee pads, boots, elbow pads, everything. That guy had to spend so much money on gear.
Yeah, because back then they didn't buy. I mean, even now I don't think they might provide stuff for you if they're giving you a very specific type of gimmick. But people still pay for all their shit.
Mhm.
And it's, realize that's just, not only does it have to look good, but it has to be durable.
Right.
And it's, so.
I was watching like a table for 3 the other day, and Alexa Bliss was talking about how all of her stuff is double reinforced so nothing falls out.
Yeah.
Like, that's a bummer.
Yeah, it is. Especially Alexa Bliss. Oh, God. But, yeah, it's... Well, and another difference was, I don't remember how I found WCW. I think it was just...
Channel surfing?
Yeah, we had probably the guide channel or the preview guide channel.
Now, for you kids out there who don't know what the preview guide channel is, that's what we had when we were kids. You used to go to channel like 60-something. Or no, it was 34 in Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
It was channel 34. And you had a scrolling list of the TV channels and what was on those TV channels. And if you missed your show, you missed your channel, you had to wait.
Yeah.
For it to come all the way back around.
Because the only other option you really had was a TV guide.
The actual paper printed weekly TV guide.
And I remember there were episodes of like certain shows that I would like religiously check the TV guide every week to see that, like,
if
Star
it was
Trek,
gonna be new or not.
if it was gonna be the one I was looking for. There'd be certain episodes that I would wait months and months till it would finally come around. That's what you had to do. There was no access to that stuff then.
Right. We didn't have Netflix back in the early 90s.
Well, that's what was cool about WCW is it provided another. Like I was saying earlier, it was a different product. It was different wrestlers, different tone, everything. I never watched. I never got their pay-per-views like I did WWE. I was way more WWF. I was way more into the WWF, but I was starting to like. I remember the Z-Man, the Juicer. I remember even back then, seeing Scott. There was a match with Scott Steiner and Ric Flair for the belt on TV. And I remember thinking then, God, Scott Steiner is amazing. Like, and then I got to see the Steiner tag team. I was like,
The Steiners as a tag team were great.
Especially in WCW. They didn't do much in WWE, unfortunately.
Yeah. But now, I mean, Scott Steiner's... yeah.
Now Scott Steiner's runs a Shoney's, and Rick Steiner's on the school board in Ackworth, Georgia, I believe.
Scott Steiner runs a Shoney's.
In Ackworth, Georgia.
Oh my God. I did not know that.
If you ever get a chance to listen to What Happened When, you'll find out. They call them school board and ham cubes are the nicknames.
Oh my God.
But they were another one that really drew me. I discovered Ric Flair before he came into WWE. I at least knew who he was. You got the sense that he was significant. I, of course, as a kid, didn't realize how significant he was overall. So, like the 90s, I mean, and a lot of that stuff, it was great. We got most of the pay-per-views, because it was only 4 a year.
Right.
A lot of the similar things, like you said, it was a big family thing, usually. We would tape them, we would...
Oh, yeah.
You had the VCR.
I remember at one point, I went and I got, not construction paper, but different colored, fluorescent paper.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was big on, the Disney-style VHS cases.
Mm-hmm.
The big white things.
The big open plastic, yeah.
So, we would always buy those from, Meyer knew my dad. Meyer Video knew my dad. And he would go in and say, "You got any empty cases for me?" So, I would use those cases, and I would have different colored fluorescent paper for each Rumble, Survivor Series, WrestleMania, and SummerSlam. And I'd, have one here, one here, one here. So I knew if I wanted to watch a certain show, I knew which color to look for.
Mm-hmm. That's cool, man. That's good. You said they gave them to him for free?
Well, he bought them.
Oh, okay. I thought they were just throwing them out or something.
No, he bought them. But, I mean, that's I'm an organizational freak.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I started.
Well, no, that's a good idea. I mean, because even 4 shows, they added up after a while. If you've been watching it for 10 years, well, then they started adding King of the Ring, and they started doing the in your house shows every month,
Mm-hmm.
which I still think it's a mistake. I think they should have stuck to 4 pay-per-views because the way that and maybe
5 with the King of the Ring.
Well, okay. I know Vince never liked the King of the Ring. That's one of the reasons he got rid of it. They used to do it on the house show loop.
Yeah, before it was on pay-per-view.
And I guess he doesn't like tournaments, apparently, or whatever. But
well, that's something that he and I disagree on because I flipping love tournaments.
I do too, as a fan. I think it's one of the things I do on the games. I love to set up a tournament, just watch it. You know
right.
What I mean? Yeah, all throughout the early '90s, watched a lot of WCW. When Hulk Hogan went to WCW, I didn't see as much of that around that time because that's about the time. That's when Eric Bischoff took over, and they got to deal with MGM and all that. I missed that first little bit of that stuff. I didn't see Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan. I was watching WWE more, but then see WWE was starting to like peter out
because it was the
gimmick era.
Yeah, it was you are a wrestler and you are also a fill in the blank. Yeah, you are a mechanic. You are a
dentist,
a plumber, a dentist,
a mantar,
a
monk.
Oh,
there's some truly that
Friar Ferguson.
Like 95. Was it 94, 95?
Like 94 to about 96.
That's when I dipped out a little bit just because it started getting so
Sparky Plug.
Boring. Yeah, like
Bastion Booger.
And oh god, I hated that. So did Mike Shaw, but and it was like because it didn't have the fire it didn't have the personal issues that a lot of those angles had. You know, when you would get so invested in the characters. These characters were bland. It's not that they were all bad wrestlers necessarily. You know, obviously some of them, Isaac Yankem went on to be one of the, if not the longest running regularly active person in WWE, right? I mean, I guess a Taker, depends on how you...
well, close to, like, Triple H status.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Triple H has been active the whole time. Although Kane's actually been involved in, like, angles and, like, wrestled on TV and stuff. I don't think Triple H does as much. I know he has.
Not as much in the past few years. Unless you include the WrestleMania match with Ronda Rousey.
That was a good match, man.
It was a good match. We'll get to that at another time.
But yeah, I haven't really followed up on that either. I don't know what they're doing with her. But it was about... I remember... I'll never forget this night. First of all, because it started off as a really bad night. Not for me so much, but I was at the hospital. My nephew had to go... Or my cousin had to go to the hospital. I was staying with my uncle. This is in '96. Summer of '96. And they bring me... I got brought home by someone, and when I got home... like I said, I didn't get any of the WCW pay-per-views. But I was watching whatever wrestling show was on. I think it must have been Nitro, or maybe they recapped on Saturday night, or I don't remember what night of the week it was. And they're showing me Hulk Hogan being a bad guy, coming down to the ring and leg dropping Randy Savage. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, and that was the kickoff. Because I was watching Nitro when Scott Hall came out. You know what I mean? I was watching when that whole thing started. And Nitro at that point, once again, they were kind of... I mean, what's the match he came out during? It was some...
Oh. Yeah, it was... It's probably somebody like Prince Iakea.
Something like that. Two wrestlers I can't even think of their names. But see, that's when it got hot for me again. Because once, like, all of a sudden, my brother and I, once we're watching WCW, and it's hard to put in context for people now. But even at that time, yes, it wasn't as considered as real, I think, as serious as people thought it was in the 70s and 80s. But there was still, like, you would think as a kid, oh man, it'd be cool to see Vader and WWE fight Hogan, or it'd be cool to see Ric Flair go, and blah blah blah. But you never in a million years even, they never talked about each other. Now I remember, like, Vince McMahon mentioned Randy Savage leaving when he left, but he didn't.
Yeah, he mentioned that on Raw.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't think he said where he was going, but he didn't mention he left. But the companies didn't acknowledge each other. It might as well have been two completely different universes.
Until the Attitude Era.
Until the Attitude, yeah. Well, during the Monday Night era, it's like all of a sudden you had Scott Hall. I didn't know his name was Scott Hall first because he just came out. I was like, well, it's Razor Ramon. But and then here comes Diesel. I was like, well, this is cool, but it was a type of angle I'd never seen because they weren't doing the normal things you would see. They're coming out and disrupting the show. As they came out, they powerbomb Eric Bischoff. You never saw that shit before that. You never saw the president of a company get attacked like that. And he got powerbombed off the stage through a table.
And that really could be the catalyst for what started Austin McMahon. I never thought about that until just now.
The Austin McMahon thing, and I only know this once again because I listened so religiously to what happened with Conrad and Bruce. That started off as more of a, I mean, who knows if they could have looked at that and got the idea for it. They say they didn't. Well, the whole Vince thing was he wasn't even supposed to be that character.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
He was just kind of, I forgot who, Austin was supposed to work with somebody. I think they got hurt. And they didn't have, he was kind of just filling in until they could get something going. Then they brought Mike Tyson in, and that whole thing ignited.
You ruined it, damn it!
You ruined it! Because then, once again, when you saw Vince McMahon get stunnered, what was funny, what was different about the two companies is that WWF had always had a titular president on TV. It was Jack Tunney, and then Gorilla Monsoon. I don't know if they had another one after that, of that stature.
Vince, because once Gorilla left is pretty much when Vince was on TV a lot.
And what was crazy is Vince was an announcer. We'd always seen him doing commentary, They're talking about owning the company. I'm like, what? I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that,
Brett screwed Brett.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that.
But that's when you knew.
Yeah.
When during Montreal, that's when casual fans like us who didn't know any better really found out about that Vince was the owner of the company. Because why is Brett just spitting in the face of a commentator?
Well, they did an angle before that, and this was a work angle where something had. This is when Brett was going heel, and he had come out to the commentary. He attacked Vince.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I think that was one of the first times that they didn't acknowledge he was owner, but like you said, you're looking like, why is he attacking this commentator? Right. Why does he give a shit what he thinks about what's going on?
Right.
Well, but the Monday Night War era was so fun because it got to a point where you had all these wrestlers jumping back and forth, and you'd had to watch these shows every week because it was. And I watched Nitro way more than I did WWF.
I was a flipper.
Yeah,
I was a channel flipper, and if I didn't do that, I would watch Raw and then I would record the replay in Nitro and watch it the next day.
Yeah. Eventually, at a certain point, we started watching more WWF, but for a long time, that's why they were beating them in the ratings. They were better. They were more interesting, I should say. I guess better is not really might not be the appropriate word.
No, better is the appropriate word because, it's as much as I don't like to listen to Eric Bischoff speak. He had it right when he was saying that he didn't have a bunch of cartoon characters coming out to the ring. The NWO was legit.
Yeah, they lived that shit. That was and look how much it changed the cultural zeitgeist. You had people on, and same thing with the Degeneration X and stuff. But you had people doing the Wolfpack signal on baseball games, football games, doing the cross chop. That shit. Mm-hmm. It made wrestling more legit than I think it had ever been in the public stream because it had been like you were almost a pariah for being a wrestling fan.
No, and to some degree, you still are.
Yeah.
Even with, kayfabe being dead and people understand. Well, most people, not kids, because kids need to, just like we did. Kids need to have. They need to be able to suspend disbelief as far as storylines are concerned. And that's actually one of the problems that I have with the WWE Network is that they are breaking kayfabe on a regular basis. But we will get into that at another time. But
that's probably one of the biggest differences when you look at the beginning to now it would come back over and over is the kayfabe. This is the presentation of this is real. Like when they did the whole Madison Square Garden thing before Hall and Nash left.
Oh, the curtain call.
The curtain call. That that pissed everybody. I don't think there was a single old timer who was okay with that.
And there's still only that one piece of footage of that actually happening. It's amazing how many. I mean, Vince has to be paying so much money every time that gets used.
Yeah.
To that random fan. Either that or he bought it for cash outright and able to use it whenever he wants.
That would be more my. I would guess
I would guess that. So, now here's my question. Like we said, I started 2.5 years earlier than you. What era? I mean, in those 2.5 years, which do you think is better? Like, say stuff like WrestleMania to WrestleMania. You know, WrestleMania 4 to WrestleMania 6.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 4 being the tournament, 5 being Mega Powers Explode, and 6 being champion versus champion, title for a title. And then you had, you know, you go into 91 and you had Hogan versus Slaughter.
Mm-hmm.
And then WrestleMania 8, you had the big first ever double main event with Randy and Flair and Hogan and Sid.
Mm-hmm.
Which time frame do you feel is better?
I mean, honestly, I think it's hard to argue that earlier time frame was like a golden era, because that was the time when wrestling was being taken from this territorial niche product and becoming a thing. I mean, you know, WrestleMania was such a grandiose event, you know,
yeah.
an entertainment event, not just a wrestling event. And I think it was just such an important time, and you were seeing things then. Even when I started watching, there were certain angles that were already, you know, you'd already seen Hogan go through the being the hero and stuff like that. But I think that time was when he really came into his own, being the Hulk Hogan that we got to know.
Mm-hmm.
Because he took down Andre the Giant, who had never really, I don't know if he'd ever been beaten, period. That I would almost believe, because his status is an attraction.
Andre?
Yeah.
No, he had been beaten. I have proof of it because I've got on DVD. I have the Hulk Hogan unreleased collector's series where Hogan pinned him.
Well, because I know that they used to say that he'd never been slammed before. I know that's Bill Eadie fucking slammed him way before that. I mean, I know a number of people's bodies slammed him, but
yeah, Bill Eadie smash.
But you went, but that.
Repo Man.
I mean, I think Repo Man. I would say objectively, I mean, that is a better. I don't know, man, because now I think the more exciting era to me would have been like the Monday Night Wars.
Well, yeah,
for
that
completely
goes without
different dynamic though too. Like,
but I mean, just for when we started. So I mean, and we're just talking about the main event scene. You know, when you had the undercard of that pretty much stayed the same throughout that 4-year span. You know, when you had these great tag teams like the Rockers and the Hart Foundation, mm-hmm. and Demolition and the Powers of Pain. Well, the Powers of Pain even split up by like 91, because at WrestleMania 7 you had the Warlord and the Bulldog. That's what you and I were just talking about.
Yeah,
yesterday, the Full Nelson stuff. But yeah, the mid card, and you know, Jake the Snake, Rick Martel,
mm-hmm.
the fabulous Rougeau brothers.
Let me. I guess you could break it down like this: the era where you came in, it had the grandiose vibe of the Hulk, but like you said, what I got to experience more when I started watching was more. There was more out there. There was more development and a lot, you know. And you had some of the older tag teams going away, but you also had stuff happening like Shawn Michaels breaking away from Marty Jannetty and starting to become. So in a weird way, it was similar because I started watching at a time where I got to see Undertaker's first match,
right,
and stuff like that. So I think you can definitely argue that both of them had their advantages.
Yes,
I mean, I think as far as just for excitement, I think getting to see the Hogan stuff go down as it's going down and being able to look back on that, I think that's really cool. You know, I mean, I think as far as like getting to see WWF starting to become into its own, I think that's when I started watching it. When you start,
I could get behind that.
So I mean, I guess I would say the '88 era would overall be a better era, but I don't think it's like a night and day difference.
No, it's really not, because I mean,
pretty close to each other. First of all,
yeah, I mean, there's advantages to both of those like 2-year spans.
Mm-hmm.
Because what makes it better, in my opinion, is that I got to watch all that stuff in the 88, 89, and got to see it evolve in like 90, 91, 92.
Whereas I came in while a lot of that stuff was already going and then starting to peter out.
Right.
And I got to see the influx of the people who would go on to be like the next big stars. I mean, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart when he broke off.
Mr. Perfect.
Mr. Perfect.
God.
The 92, was it 91 or 92?
It was 90.
SummerSlam.
I want to say it was 92.
I remember
that match. Oh my God.
That match left a mark on me as a kid, because that was one of those hook things where, like, not that I necessarily said, well, that's fake and that's real. I didn't think of it like that. But when you watched that match, that felt like a fucking epic struggle.
Yeah, we didn't actually mention which match it was. It was Bret Hart against Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam 1992, where Mr. Perfect was the champion going in, and Bret Hart beat him for the title to win his first Intercontinental title?
That was his first, like, big championship
other than
moment.
having tag team titles with Jim Neidhart.
And you never really go... You go back and watch Bret Hart in, like, the early, like, 89, 90 and stuff, you can see that he was good in the ring.
No, it wasn't 92. It was 91, because 92 was at Wembley.
That's what I was saying. I knew it was one of the two. That was a great... I mean, Mr. Perk was another one. I got to see him when he came in and really started... Not when he came in, I don't think, but, like, when he was really hitting his stride. You know, I mean, there's a lot...
Right.
So it was really cool. I mean, I loved at the time I got to watch it. And I still, when I first started watching, I still think the Monday Night War era was probably my favorite. As far as being glued to the TV, that's when I started buying the magazines and stuff at the store and really studying them. You know what I mean?
I had stacks of magazines.
Pro Wrestling Illustrator, Pro Wrestling Weekly, I think it was another one. I remember all of them, but they had all the the standings.
PWI is still going.
Yeah. I think most of them are.
It's crazy.
The Observer. I don't think the Observer was a magazine, was it?
No, it's always a newsletter.
Okay, I never.
The only one, I mean, WWE magazine, whatever, is not around anymore. But I've actually still got some of the old ones from like 06.
It was still going on even
out in the garage. Yeah, I still got some of them.
Well, I think one of the last things to say about it is. I think the biggest difference in our journey with it is that I really did stop watching for quite a long time. I really... Once again, it was life stuff. I didn't hate it. Right. I would dip in every once in a while and see what was going on. Like, I know that I was watching... I think that was two... I forgot when that happened. What happened when Austin got hurt? What year was that?
That was 97.
Nice. Okay.
When Owen piledrived him?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 97.
Okay, so I was told... Cause I remember I was watching that pay-per-view when that happened. You know what I mean? And you're like, that's not right. Like,
because SummerSlam 96, the main event was Shawn and Vader.
Yeah. That match where he yelled at Vader the whole time.
Uh-huh. Where to start the match, Shawn, like, suicide dived him.
Yeah. Yeah. And back when you didn't see that shit normally, you do now.
Shawn in his teal blue tights.
That was before, I think. Did he have the super... Was he using the super kick as a finisher yet?
He was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he only used the teardrop suplex as a heel.
Okay.
When he first left Jannetty.
I know he was setting it up with the super kick, and then I think Patterson finally just said, hey, why don't you just do the kick instead of picking him back up?
Yeah. Yeah. So...
Well, TGW has got me hardcore back into wrestling. I started watching it again a couple years ago, and now the last couple months was standing because life stuff has been in the way. I had to get caught back up, and especially I've become obsessed with like the behind the scenes stories and that aspect of wrestling. I mean, I probably spend more time listening to that stuff at the moment than I do actually watching wrestling. Going back and listening to old interviews, going back and listening to I mean, just I love it. I love as an adult looking at this business I love so much as a kid, and going back and hearing all these crazy stories behind it and seeing it from this completely different angle. I mean, does it ruin some of the magic? I guess you could argue it does. It doesn't to me. I don't. It doesn't bother me. I can watch it now. If the match is good, and the people are good at what they're doing, and they're allowed to actually wrestle, I get into it just as much as I did.
And that's the problem that a lot of people or that I have with a lot of people who use the F word.
Mm-hmm.
Is that they don't get that it's an art form. These guys are dancing out there.
It's amazing. The coordination, the timing, the physicality, just to get out, just to go to the ring and get in the ring without fucking busting a bunch of... I mean, you saw what happened to Vince McMahon that one time. That's because he didn't stretch first. He fucking
tore both his quads getting into the ring.
People think, oh, just wrestle. I mean, get in there and wrestle around for 2 or 3 minutes, man. Unless you're in shape already, you're going to be in a fucking corner huffing.
Not to mention being willing to put your body through that on a nightly basis. I mean, the lifespan of some of these guys and girls, you know, like, you want to talk about girls, look at the crazy shit that Lita used to do.
Oh, man. And she's definitely ahead of her time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She was like a female luchador.
Yeah.
Had one of the prettiest moonsaults I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Next to Kurt Angle, because nobody can beat Kurt Angle's moonsault.
I don't know. I think Charlotte's got a pretty...
Yeah.
When she hits it right, that one WrestleMania match when it was her and Sasha and
Becky.
Yeah, that was the best moonsault I think I've ever seen. That was
pretty.
But you're right, Kurt Angle was like glides to the air.
Yeah. But, I mean, people don't... Like, the only thing that people want to bring up is the fact that it's all choreographed. It's all predetermined. I get it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
We understand that. We are not naive children anymore. We understand the inner workings of how this works. Because you can't not anymore. With all the content that's available to you between stuff on the network, stuff podcasts, stuff you can search for on YouTube. You can't not know how it works.
Yeah. But it's knowing how something works doesn't mean you can do it
worse.
Yeah, like
how does a movie work? Unless you see a based on a true story,
which they usually fuck shit up anyway. But.
Right. You know, it's the same thing. It's you see those memes all over the place. I don't watch wrestling because it's fake, but you go to the movies every goddamn week.
Yeah, you know that's not real.
Tell me a difference.
And they're doing this shit live in front of people on TV, like they're not getting to do a bunch of different takes. They're not getting to do
right.
And they're actually. This is another thing. We won't go too far down this road. We got another episode for the kayfabe. But I think the thing too, people don't realize they're still getting hit. People don't realize that when you pick someone up and body slam them, that fucking hurt. That canvas is wood, plywood. Or with what, canvas on top of it.
Yeah, and it's got some padding.
Because you don't fucking break your neck or shit.
when you get picked up 7, 8 feet in the air and powerbombed being driven into that canvas, that padding is going to be smashed real quick. Mm-hmm. And you're going on straight wood. Not to mention, you have stuff like that. When people are slammed outside...
Oh, yeah,
suplexed outside the ring. Yes, there's a thin padding. You're still on concrete.
And they didn't even used to do it. Like now they have the barriers and everything padded too. They didn't.
Right. Yeah,
metal barriers.
The bike racks.
Yeah. And they would drop.
You still see that in some places. Like you look at all these indie shows, that's all they have. I think that's what Impact uses still is the bike racks.
And people got hurt. There's Bret Hart one time facing Dino Bravo. Bret was on the outside of the apron. Dino hit him. Bret was doing the spot where you come off against the thing, but he hit it wrong, broke his fucking ribs. You know what I mean? I don't know. That'll be fun to talk about because I think there's
the death of kayfabe.
Because I think there's a lot of good points been made about how it's affected the business, but I still don't think that it takes away from what they're doing. And you'll hear some people, you'll try to describe what they're doing, and people go, "Well, yeah, you gotta have the same set of skills to do ballet." I'm like, yeah, ballet's fucking hard.
Yeah.
I don't care what you may even think it's manly, but
Football players take ballet.
yeah, for footwork, for timing, for coordination,
Right.
for agility. You know what I mean?
So quick wrap up. Yeah. I, Evil Penguin Gaming, started watching wrestling back in 1988, which is when I fell in love with tournaments, elimination matches, battle royals, what have you. And like I said, they're still my favorite types of matches to this day. I'll go back every year and watch every single Royal Rumble match before the year's Royal Rumble, just because I enjoy them that much.
Yeah.
Whereas you started in 1990, getting to see more or less the birth of The Undertaker, and you got to see that great era into my favorite WrestleMania. That's what when you were first being introduced to everything, because that my favorite WrestleMania being WrestleMania 7, it took place in 91. You're less than a year into your fandom.
And I'm getting to watch some heat. Oh my god, Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, motherfucker.
Yeah.
They want to kill his ass.
I mean, they had to change the venue for WrestleMania 7 because it was supposed to be in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum that had no roof, and they were getting bomb threats.
And they couldn't get. I guess like the Super Bowl could get like government or like local police help or something, but they couldn't get that for.
That was supposed to be like over 100,000 people, and they went to an arena with less than 20.
Yeah.
Less than 20,000. That had to be one of the biggest financial blows that company probably ever took.
And we should mention one of the reasons that happened was because it was during Royal Rumble, right in the middle of Royal Rumble, they declared war on Iraq, right?
Yep.
And they had already started this angle, so all of a sudden this shit's real, like in real life, and it's like, oh.
When Sergeant Slaughter being an Iraqi sympathizer, God, that was a great angle.
It was. He's so good. Sergeant Slaughter was so good, man. Heel or babyface, he was awesome.
Yeah.
He's one of the best characters.
Yeah, he was. So, that is going to wrap it up for the debut edition of TGW Turnbuckle Talk. Please remember you can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/TGWrestling. You can follow us on Twitter at ThoseGuys734. You can follow us on Twitch here on Bananarama TV. You can follow me on Twitter at EvilPenguin1981, and you can follow this guy on Twitter at
OddSmith311.
So, in closing, we will see you all next week. And we have been, count it down with me, a 1, a 2, a 3. Those guys.
Wrestling rules.